We started the Domestic Sexual Violence Task Force in 2019, and the idea behind the task force was to create the community-wide response to domestic and sexual violence that really is needed in order to make a change. It's a big cultural shift, and I felt very much like it was not something that law enforcement, we can't do it on our own. We have representatives on the task force that are from all different kinds of disciplines. We have law enforcement, we have research experts, we have community activists, we have people who are sex workers, we have people that are representatives from a disabled community, because we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to support people who are in situations where they're being victimized. Because the key, I think, to ending domestic and sexual violence is for the people who are being victimized to be empowered, to feel that there is support for them to get out of dangerous situations. And that's not something that we can do just by holding people accountable. It's something that we do by building a safety net throughout the community.
You need the support. You need the support. You need someone that can really guide you through it, and don't not listen to them. Listen to what they have to say. They may could give you some great advice.
The task force took on a community book read of No Visible Bruises, What We Don't Know About Domestic Violence Can Kill Us by Rachel Louise Snyder. The book provides a roadmap as to how communities can end domestic violence.
Every myth that exists around domestic violence is a myth that I once bought into unknowingly, that if things were bad enough, victims would just leave, that if restraining orders weren't renewed, it meant the problem was solved, that shelter is an adequate end result, right? Like answer to the problem. The most prevalent question asked, of course, is why didn't she just leave? And the question is so problematic. It's completely gendered. It puts the impetus for change on a victim rather than the perpetrator. But also it shows a deep misunderstanding of what victims do in domestic violence situations.
I didn't make any plans to leave, which I should have now that I think about it. I would say I would leave, but never actually made plans or actually did it, so no.
Victims behave in a way that is entirely rational given the circumstance that they're in.
In my book, there's a woman who is taking nursing classes so that she can someday earn a degree, so that she can someday support her children. She also secretly put the house in her name. It was her father's house, so that she could someday get her abuser out of there. This is what leaving looks like. It is a set of behaviors that kind of happen in the background. It's not a suitcase packed at the door like you're off to Vegas for the weekend.
Rachel Louise Snyder's book shows that victims are acting completely rationally given the circumstances that we're faced with. And I really think it's so important for everybody in our community to understand that.
We haven't been very good about making this space for victims and abusers to come forward and get help without dismantling that sense of shame that comes along with it.
I thought I wasn't the best mother because I allowed this to happen. I thought it was my fault that this happened, where I could have got rid of him and I didn't.
One of the more amazing and surprising things that I found as I go around the country, first as I research the book and now and as I talk to individuals and to groups doing this work, is how little it takes to make meaningful change. All it took was a community willing to coordinate their resources.
No Visible Bruises was such an amazing opportunity for our community to have this conversation, and that I think really is the essential work of the Domestic and Sexual Violence Task Force. It was a really great way to elevate the conversation and to get everybody in our community speaking the same language so that we can all work together on this problem collaboratively.
I'm talking everywhere all the time. I've never seen this, never. It is a remarkable feat of coordination. If you can do this with one little book and one little author, you can do anything, honestly.
It's up to all of us to be on the lookout, to support that, to question when people say, why didn't she leave? It's up to all of us to challenge those kinds of outdated notions and thinking. It's up to all of us to be educated.
I'd really like people to walk away with the idea that they are part of a system that they can change. Systems don't exist separate from who we are as people. We are the systems, right, that make up a society. So if we want those changes, we have to start them in our own homes. And so I think the first thing is to create spaces where our friends, our family members, our, fellow churchgoers, community members don't feel shame and stigma when they talk about domestic violence.
He was my husband, so of course I didn't fall out of love with him, but I knew that I couldn't be with him. So I had so many mixed signals, mixed things going through my head about the situation, but I knew I was done with him completely. I knew that.
It's really up to all of us as a community to demand justice and to, say that this is not acceptable.